Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Leader Class Decepticon Galvatron. So as we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging and bring it in. So we're going to start right up here at the top. You have Transformers Legacy. On the front you have that nice artwork showing Galvatron in both of his modes. He's Galvatron, this is Legacy, they are Transformers. He is a leader class. Over here on the side, you've got some nice Decepticon artwork. On the back, it is Transformers. He is Galvatron. He does come with a matrix on a chain, and he converts in 33 steps. And you can see the product shots there. And bringing it on down here, parents. Over here is that QR code if you want to scan it and see the tech specs. And then down here you've got some additional information, and over here you have the warnings, and we all know why the baby's sad. It's because Galvatron, you can never be happier on Galvatron. Over here on the side you've got some Galvatron artwork, and then down low, manufacturing information. So that is it for the packaging. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll see what came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box. And we're going to start right here in the middle. You do get your little sheet of warnings, yay. And then you get your instruction booklet, yay. And that leaves you with the accessories that you see here. Now, before we go any further, it's just important to note that this is the exact same figure as the War for Cybertron Leader Class Galvatron. And he comes with the exact same accessories. So for those of you who have that Galvatron or have seen the reviews on that Galvatron, there's no surprise here. The main difference is cosmetic. As you can see, the figure itself doesn't have those battle damage paint applications, and neither does his cannon. So with all that being said, we're going to go over these accessories briefly because I'm sure most of you have seen them all already. But we'll bring them in starting on the right, and we'll look at these double guns that also double as the Revenge ship that will scale up to the HasLab Unicron. So they are identical. You can plug them together if you choose to do so, and just plug them in like this, and then you have a big old gun. Oops, thought I had it. And then you have a big old gun that Galvatron can use, and I usually have him holding this from the bottom of his hand like a minigun. I just find that works best, or you can plug them into his back. Now, other than the fact that they plug into each other, they're identical, so we're just going to take a quick look here. There's no paint, but you do have some good sculpted detail. And here is that backside. So that's kind of cool. Actually, it does kind of look like a ship. So, very nice. Alright, and then moving on, we're going to take a look at the matrix and the chain. So the matrix is removable. Just takes a little bit of effort here to get that guy off of there. Oh my goodness, this is so tight. There we go. So let's take a look at that chain first. So this is just a soft plastic, not a lot going on there. And then coming down to the matrix, this is essentially the same matrix that we saw with the War for Cybertron Prime and with the recently released laser Optimus Prime for leader class for the Transformers Legacy line as well. So just a few minor differences here. This is just painted on the front instead of being translucent plastic, and then you just plug it in on this backside just to plug it into that chain. So nothing major there. And now we'll come to his big old boom cannon. And again, this is the exact same cannon as we saw for the War for Cybertron Galvatron. The only difference is you don't have those paint applications on the side here that kind of that fuzzy orange that blocks the translucence a little bit. So other than that, they are exactly the same thing. And then this does pull apart into two pieces for the transformation. So nothing big there. I mean, you do have blast effect compatibility, which is always a big deal for me. I'm always very happy to see that. So you do have that little hole right up there for blast effect compatibility. All right, so that is everything as far as the accessories go. That just leaves us the big guy right here. So let's go ahead and bring him in for his details. Here he is, the maniacal despot that we've all been waiting to see. This is the Transformers Legacy Leader Class Galvatron. So let's go ahead and take a look at the details on this guy. We'll start right up there with his angry head. I mean, if you were subjugated by a huge planet-eating robot and didn't have any free will of your own, you'd probably be grumpy too. So that explains a lot in that face. But just like we saw in the Kingdom version, this is a very nice face sculpt and really a very nice figure overall. I nothing but praise for this figure anyway. So coming on down to that chest, you can see that he looks pretty good without all that battle scarred paint application. I think this looks pretty good, a nice clean version of him. Also, additionally, you will notice when I bring in the comparisons, the original Galvatron that I have has the misassembled shoulders, so we'll be able to get to show a nice compare and contrast of what the misassembled shoulders should look like compared to properly assembled shoulders. Coming down and looking at his 4-pack, that looks pretty good in there. Coming down, looking at that crotch and those legs, all good details. The panel lines and the sculpt work and everything were very good on this figure. This is a world-class figure in my opinion anyway. So get those red kneecaps. That's obviously where if Autobots could bleed, that would be the Autobot blood. And coming down to those feet. Everything looks good there. Lift this arm up out of the way so we can take a look at the side. Good sculpt work all the way around. You got these little hip skirts that double as the fronts of his cannon, but it's kind of nice to hide that joint. So I like what they've done there with utilization of the hip skirts. Coming up under here, taking a look, you'll notice that there are very few hollow areas, which I absolutely love about this figure. The worst you can say is you've got this little hollow area right here, but that's where his hands will fold in for transformation. So really not that bad. Coming around to the back, even from back here, he looks like an intimidating, angry figure and relatively screen accurate to the Galvatron that we saw in the 86 movie anyway, and in the original cartoons. You know, for a mainline figure, you know, they've done a really good job here. My track is a little crooked. There we go. All right, so articulation, we're going to zip through that really fast, but it's the exact same articulation as the Kingdom figure. So you've got a head on a ball joint, arms come up, they go down, they go all the way around. You can get a double joint bend right there. You've got bicep rotation. Oh, I didn't mean to misassemble you or unassemble you. Take it easy, sir. You have your waist rotation. You could go all the way around there, move those hip skirts out of the way. You can get a nice deep bend in. We do have a Van Damme. And kicking forward. Boom. Kicking backward. Not bad. You just run into this. If you get the leg out of the way a little bit, and you can take it up pretty much as high as you want to go. All right, you get thigh rotation all the way around. You get a 90-degree knee bend. And then down here at the feet, you get a little bit of an ankle tilt. Now, if you want to utilize more of the ankle tilt, you can unplug this right here. And then that will let you get crazy with that ankle tilt. Wow, you want to talk about crazy? Let's talk about crazy. There's a crazy. So you can do that if you want to. And then you have the ability to move that heel up and down a little bit, but it's really not going to do much for you. Just negligible on the up down here. So good amount of ankle tilt though. So yeah, articulation, again, it's the same as the Kingdom figure, which was already above average. And you can get this guy in some pretty sweet positions. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this guy accessorized up and take a look at him with all of his goodies on his person. So yeah, this seemed like a good idea. I don't know how well it's coming across on camera, but I like it. Anyway, this is Galvatron with all of his accessories on, and I've utilized a few of the blast effect ports so you can kind of see some of the things that you can do there, and also showcasing, number one, the fact that the joints are still tight on this mold and he can hold his leg up like that, and number two, the fact that he's so stable in general that you can get poses like this out of the figure. So all that being said, you can see I've got his revenge guns, if you want to call them those. I've got them in a couple of different spots. I've got this one right here on the left plugged into a forearm port. I've got this other one back here plugged into one of the ports on his back, and you can store both of those on his back as well. And then I have a blast effect coming out of his foot. Why? I don't know, because it would hurt if he kicked you in the face with that. And I've got a blast effect coming out of his cannon. I thought blue would be a nice juxtaposition or contrast to that orange. And then I've got this other blast effect right here on his forearm because he's obviously being shot. And Starscream's also shooting him in the back. Correction, Starscream's ghost is also shooting him in the back. So yeah, that's just to give you an example of some of the things that you can do with the blast effects. And some of the things that you can do with the inherent stability of this figure, which is outstanding. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll get him converted to his alt mode. No transformation in this video. If anybody wants to see a transformation on how to get him into his cannon mode, go back and watch my review of the original Kingdom Galvatron, and I go really in depth on that transformation, take it nice and slow, step by step for you. So let's get him in his alt mode and take a look at him from there. Oh man, I gotta say, I know I've said it before, and I know I'm gonna say it plenty more times, but I really like this figure. I like him in his bot mode, I like him in his cannon mode, and I like him even more in this legacy version because he doesn't have that battle scarring paint application like the Kingdom version does. But man, just fundamentally down at the core, what a well-designed, wonderful figure this is. And he looks so cool in his cannon mode right here. And I mean, you can see, I know I'm supposed to be talking about the accessories right here and not just losing myself looking at this guy. But you can see as far as the accessories go, kind of what we've done here. So the cannon breaks into two pieces. So you have the actual orange barrel part, and then you have this component right here. So those two plug it together in the bot mode. And then this is what you see on his forearm or on his shoulder, depending on where you want to mount it. And then you have the two revenge guns right here on either side. And then down below, you have the chain and the matrix of leadership. And yeah, those accessories, they just come together. This isn't weapon storage. This is weapon utilization or accessory utilization in the alt mode. So I absolutely love that they integrated these accessories. It's not just a, oh, plug it in here and we'll call it good enough. There was actual design intent involved here, and this guy looks great. And you do have a couple of blast effects ports that you can use, of course, right on the end of his cannon, as you see swinging around in front of you. You can put some blast effects in there and have a big boom, have a little boom. It's up to you. And then on the sides, you have two blast effect ports right down here, two of those 5mm ports. They don't have to be blast effects. You can put whatever you want in there as long as they're 5mm, but I think it looks really cool. He's taking fire while he's giving fire. Just an overall good looking figure. So enough of my rambling on about the alt mode. What we'll do now is I'm going to get these blast effects off of him, and then we're going to get him set up and we'll do some alt mode comparisons. For our first alt mode comparison, here we see the Transformers Legacy Galvatron on the left. On the right is the Transformers Generations Thrilling 30 IDW Megatron in his Stealth Bomber mode. Moving on to our next comparison, here you see Galvatron next to his Legacy Leader Class Wavemate. This is the Transformers Legacy Leader Class Laser Optimus Prime. Moving right along, this next comparison is the Transformers Generation Selects War for Cybertron Combat Megatron. Our next alt mode comparison is the Titans Return Galvatron, and you can do a little compare and contrast there yourself to see the difference in the design and the colors. And me personally, definitely my favorite right here. This was okay for its time, but he has been surpassed by this. And our final alt mode comparison obviously is going to be the most relevant here. On the left, this is the Legacy Galvatron. On the right, this is the Kingdom Galvatron. And as you can see, other than a few minor cosmetic differences, particularly that battle-scarred paint applications, there's no difference between these two guys. Both great figures. So I'm going to give you a couple different views here so you can compare and contrast between the two and enjoy the view, I guess. Here we see them both pointed in the same direction, kind of marching off to war, I suppose. Here's a 3/4 view from the rear, and I do want to point a couple things out while we're in this view. Number one, this is a great opportunity to see where there are no longer any paint applications versus what was on the Kingdom. And secondly, you can see the difference here between the shoulders. So these are the properly assembled shoulders, and then over here you have the improperly assembled shoulders from the factory. So in the grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal, at least for me, but I'm glad they finally got this right. And for our final view here you can see them kind of sort of back to back. That's it for the alt mode comparisons. So let's go ahead and get into those bot mode comparisons. But before we do, it just occurred to me, this is the last thing that Starscream ever saw. Oh my. For our first bot mode comparison, here we see Galvatron next to the Transformers Generations Thrilling 30 IDW Megatron. Here we see Galvatron next to his Transformers Legacy Wavemate. This is the Leader Class Laser Optimus Prime. Moving on to our next comparison, here we see Galvatron next to the Transformers Generations Selects War for Cybertron Combat Megatron. Now we're starting to get into the meat of this. Here we see the Legacy Galvatron on the left, and on the right is the Titans Return Galvatron, so you can see how a couple Galvatrons compare there. Oh, it looks like it's Twins Day. So here we see the two best Galvatrons that mainline Hasbro has ever put out, in my opinion. And coincidentally, they're the exact same figure. So the left is the Legacy Galvatron, the right is the Kingdom Galvatron, both leader class, both the exact same figure. The only difference is cosmetic. Well, for the most part, I digress, because on my copy, there is another difference. When I received this Kingdom Galvatron from Big Bad Toy Store last year, the copy that I was sent had the misassembled shoulders, and so you can see what the misassembled shoulders look like compared to the correctly assembled shoulders. To some people it's a big deal. To me, you know, I was on the fence about it. I would have liked to have had the right shoulders, but it never bothered me all that much. But now that I have this guy, I feel so much better about the shoulder situation. So what we'll do, we'll change a couple views here so you can see them front, back, sideways, that kind of stuff. And you can see that they are two peas in a pod here. Here we see them both from the side. The only real difference here, other than the cosmetic issues in the shoulders, are that on the Legacy Megatron, I have his cannon plugged into his forearm. On Kingdom, I have it plugged into his shoulder, just so you can see the difference, what those guys look like with a different cannon placement. Here we see them from the back. Here they are from the left side, and the only difference here, other than the shoulders, is for the Revenge Gun, which is what I'm calling it. He's holding it from the top for Legacy, and for the Kingdom, he's holding it from below. Here they are back to back. And here they are front to front. Simply because he's Galvatron, regardless whether it's Legacy or Kingdom, I thought it was important to bring in his nemesis, which of course is Rodimus Prime, so you can see those two guys together. And yeah, man, this just makes me a kid again. Love seeing these two guys together. And for our final bot mode comparison, I know this isn't apples to apples. It's not a fair comparison. It's not really meant to be. It's just because I adore this figure and I wanted to bring him in to the review. On the left, of course, you have the Transformers Legacy Leader Class Galvatron, and on the right, you have Unique Toys take on the Age of Extinction Galvatron. This is their figure, the Unique Toys Nero. That will do it for the bot mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. Oh, final thoughts time, and let me tell you, I've got some final thoughts on this figure. To put it succinctly, this is the leader class benchmark that I want Hasbro and Takara to set. This guy is great in every way, and yes, I know he is a rehash or a remold of a figure that we got for the Kingdom line. That does not diminish what this figure accomplishes by any means. So before we get into the actual scoring, I just want to say real quick that my scoring is based on two factors. Factor number one is I'm looking at this through the lens of a current leader class price point. And factor number two, I'm making the assumption that the person who's going out to buy this figure does not already have the Kingdom Galvatron. Because if you already have Kingdom Galvatron, the value is inherently lower for this one. I will say I do have both copies, as we saw in the comparisons, and the reason I'm glad that I picked this guy up, number one, is because he has the shoulders assembled correctly. My Kingdom Galvatron did not. And number two, he looks so much cleaner without all that battle scar style paint from the War for Cybertron trilogy. So all that being said, let's go ahead and try to quantify this guy a little bit, and we're going to start with aesthetics. So the overall look of this guy is phenomenal. He looks great in both of his modes, and in robot mode in particular, this is the Galvatron that we've come to know and love from the 1980s cartoons and from that 86 movie. He looks good from every angle. He looks terrific in his canon mode, but I love the robot mode here. He's just a big, bulky, nasty-looking Galvatron that's going to throw somebody around and cause some trouble. So no complaints really at all on the overall aesthetic, the overall look for this guy. If I had to pick on anything, I would say, hey, maybe give us some more paint in the lower legs, something down here that would make it pop. But other than that, yeah, he looks great. So I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 on aesthetics. Moving on to the articulation. Same thing. For a figure this size, for a commander class and for a big bulky figure, he's got some great articulation. So the only thing that I could really complain about would be the ankles. So you get some ankle tilt on this guy, but you don't get a whole lot of ankle tilt. Now, you can alleviate that issue if you undo these purple buckles back here, and then that basically undoes the leg transformation, and you can spread that out, and you can get some pretty extreme ankle tilt that way. But just by default, with these joints down here, I would have liked to have seen some more ankle tilt. So everything else is great. A wish list item, as always, would be an ab crunch, but I'm not going to knock him for that. So articulation overall, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the accessories. Yeah, the accessories for this commander class at this price point is good. Of course, you get that big cannon that we're seeing right now, and it is blast effect compatible. You get the revenge guns. Unfortunately, they're not blast effect compatible, but you still get them and they look great. You get the matrix. It looks great. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little more detail in the chain, or maybe something else done there. It's not the best, but it's still pretty good. Overall accessories, I think, are pretty good on this guy. I would have liked to, on those revenge guns, I would have liked to have blast effect compatibility, and I would have liked to have seen some paint or some different colors on those guns instead of just that gray that they're molded in. So overall, I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10 on accessories. Now, moving on to the overall quality. I'm going to start by saying that other than the shoulders, I thought the Galvatron figure that I had for Kingdom that I picked up a year ago, I thought that was a high quality figure until I got this guy. I don't know how they did it, but this figure right here that you're looking at has even tighter joints. So I don't know how they accomplished that, if it's still the same tooling that they're using to make this guy. But yeah, this guy is incredible. He doesn't have any quality issues that I can detect. He came with everything that he was supposed to come with. I don't see any molding defects anywhere on this guy. He doesn't have a lot of paint, but what paint he does have is applied really well. And he's just great. He's stable. His joints are tight. You can put him in positions and he's going to hold him. He's going to hold his arm up. So all these things are great. I'm going to give this guy a very rare 10 out of 10 on the quality. This is the benchmark that they need to set at Hasbro and Takara, and they need to maintain this. So bringing us to our last value, or last point, which is overall value. Again, going back to the fact that I'm making the assumption you don't already own the Kingdom figure. This is your first Galvatron leader class. The Transformers Legacy is the first one you're picking up. So I think that the value is definitely here. Even at that slightly higher leader class price point that we're seeing nowadays, this is such a solid, dense, beefy, robust, amazing figure. This is what all the leader class figures should be. And if you noticed, compared to that laser Optimus Prime, he's bigger. So, when it comes to the leader class, size does kind of matter. I know that they're going the route of giving you a Voyager class figure with a whole ton of accessories, but man, I miss the days of the big, beefy, high-quality leader class figures, and this is what Galvatron brings back. So, really happy with the overall value, the overall price point for the Galvatron figure. I think it's very well justified. And frankly, even for those of you like me who already had the Kingdom Galvatron, this guy might still be worth picking up, to have one in bot mode and one in canon mode, and one, frankly, that doesn't have the paint effects that the Kingdom version had on. So I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10 on overall value. I think he has it all the way through. So that brings us to our final total. Out of a possible 50 points, the Transformers Legacy Galvatron gets 45 out of 50, which puts him at 90%. This guy is one of the easiest mainline recommends that I've ever given. point blank, period. He's just a high quality figure. Yeah, there is the issue of this is just a re-release of Kingdom, but man, if you weren't able to pick the Kingdom up, this one is one you do not want to pass up. He is a great figure to have on your shelf. He's a great figure to play with. I can't say enough good things about this figure, and I think for the price point, they absolutely nailed it here. So that's going to wrap up the review. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you were entertained by it. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about Galvatron. Let me know what you think about the channel. And until we see you guys in the next review, take care.